Hey guys, today's video is going to be everything you need to know to study abroad with EF and specifically to Seoul, South Korea. I hope that I can answer your guys' questions and bring a lot more clarity and confidence for you guys to be able to study abroad with EF. As you guys know, I finally finished my Seoul vlogs. If you haven't yet, just make sure to go check those out. So what I'll be starting off with is going to be my personal experience and kind of the fun questions about EF. Then towards the end of the video, I'll go all over the logistics, so money and documents that you may need. One of my burning questions was, did I stay with an EF host family or did I stay in the EF residence? So I stayed with an EF host family. I chose to do this and really learn about the culture and take in more information. This is also another good way for me to be able to practice my language comprehension and, being able to speak and gaining the confidence to speak and ask questions. And not only did I do host family because of these reasons, host family is also their free option. It's technically included in your tuition. If you were to stay at EF residence, you would have to pay an additional price. I'm really glad that I made this decision. I loved my host family. I really think they made a big part of my experience really good. And I really do suggest that you guys consider host family, but most definitely it's not for everyone. But for me, it worked out really well, and I really suggest thinking and considering doing that. So what is it like in an EF host family? Well, most people are paired with another EF student with no additional cost. If you would like a single room, then you would have to pay extra, but I paid no additional cost for my EF host family, so that meant that I had the chance of having another student. But my host family's house was pretty small, so they could only house one student. And EF wasn't had a lot of students to house, so it wasn't a problem that I got to have a room by myself. When I first arrived, it was really nice. I was greeted very kindly by my host brothers. They speak English very well, and so did my host mom. That is not the case for everyone, but I was lucky enough to have them speak English to me just so that I can get a little bit more comfortable. I was pretty jet lagged, so I kind of just went to bed. She showed me around my room and the house, kind of just set down some rules, like I'm not allowed to go into their rooms and that I wasn't able to watch TV. That was one big rule I had, but that wasn't a problem for me at all. Another rule that I had was the lengths of showers that I take. Try not to take 30-minute showers. So the technique I used was the on and off. So just consider that when you're doing a host family, is that you have to respect EF rules and it's their home. So please to make sure to respect their rules. Another thing being with the host family is that they were responsible for your breakfast and dinner. That is technically what is expected of them. Now, I don't know how strong all these families follow the rule, but luckily my host mom always made me breakfast in the morning. She would sometimes pack me a snack for lunch, but they're not responsible for that because typically you're going to be in class. And then for dinner, if I choose to go back home, she will make me a meal and I'll eat with everyone. Not only did I have or expect to eat meals with them, but during the weekends I would sometimes go out with them. I tried not to do too much of that because I don't want them to feel responsible to make sure that I have fun or pay things for me. So it was nice. I was just spending time with them and I got to know them better. It was very good and I loved spending time with them. Host families aren't paid a lot or at all sometimes, so that means they really want to be taking in an exchange student. So keep this in mind. Don't be scared. They are welcoming you into their home. They're not getting a lot of money, so there's not much to gain except them trying to make a connection with someone else. So keep this in mind. Now I'm going on to talk a little bit about the residence. One thing that I think EF kind of misinterprets is residence. When you think of residence, you kind of think of a college dorm that's only going to be students. The EF residence is actually just a hotel in Gangnam. That's not quite a residence, but I would say about 1.5 floors of the hotel belongs to EF, so it'll be predominantly EF students, which is really nice. But you'll also be surrounded by people from a lot of different countries traveling on vacation, for business, and for other reasons, so keep this in mind. You're in a hotel. The residence is very nice. It is a very pretty hotel. I will send in photos. It's also in a great location. It's in Gangnam, and it's right underneath a whole bunch of convenience stores, so if you're ever that late night snacker, it's very easy to go and do that. And also it's not far from the EF campus. A lot of my friends did the EF residence for multiple reasons. Along with doing residence, you'll be more close with a roommate if you choose to have one. So you'll be more close to EF students if that's what you're looking for as well. I've slept over at the EF residence. It was really fun. There are curfews if you're under 18, so just consider this. You have to follow rules. But honestly, I think doing an EF residence was also a good option. Moving on to the next question, what is the age range like and what can you do being a minor and being an adult while traveling with EF? So the age range, I would say the youngest person that I met was either 15 or 16 years old, and the oldest was probably over 50 years old. EF is not only for students that want to study abroad, it's also for adults that are looking for business or personal reasons. There was a Japanese lady named Chikako, and she came and she was much older. She was learning Korean, the same as all of us. So keep this in mind, there's a high age range, but most definitely the average was 18 to 23, what you'll typically run into at EF. Everyone there is super kind. I didn't have like a bad experience with anyone. So if you're a minor with EF, you have to respect the country's laws. So you would have to be like 19 American age or like 20 to be able to drink. So you had to respect this. I didn't always do that. As a minor as well, you have to respect EF curfew, which is 11 o'clock. You're expected to be back at your host family or residence. Host families, again, may make it sooner or later for you. I personally didn't have a curfew, which shouldn't have happened, but it did, and it was okay. Everything worked out. With EF residence, there's like a place to sign in with a clipboard, and the counselor, which was Jorge at the time, would just kind of go in and check to see if you're in your room or not. But there are many ways to work around that. If you're over 18, then you don't have a curfew unless your host family puts one on you. But in the residence, you don't have a curfew. By law there, you're able to do more things like go to clubs, and you can take part in 18 plus activities that EF puts on. I know there was like a thing called a pub crawl where in Gangnam they were just going to different clubs and partying. I personally suggest being over 18 when studying abroad. I just think there's a lot more activities and things you can experience. I mean, I wasn't personally held back by being a minor, but most definitely could have been safer and better choices I made had I been older. So now I'm going to talk about what a daily class looks like and the difference between basic, general, and intensive course. So I personally took the intensive course, so we'll start off with that. On my first day of school, I have to bring my passport and my ID, which you can print out. And then you just kind of are there with everyone and they're starting to check you in. They will scan your passport just to make sure that you're there properly in Korea and to make sure that all the information is the same, that they have the right kid. Then soon after you're checked in and you're waiting, you're going to be given like a Korean test. It is very quick and simple. They opened a book and they're like, "What's this word in Korean?" And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, "Okay, well, can you introduce yourself?" I introduced myself. And she's like, "What is this word?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, you're in this level." And I was like, "Okay." And the tests were very quick and simple like that. So that's how that started off. Intensive course meant to me that I had 32 lessons per week. That may seem like a lot, and it was. The durations of my class are the same. They're going to be 40 minutes long, but I just take more classes throughout the day. There's things called spin classes, which is like your special activity class. If you do another basic one, it'll be less classes and less classes and less classes. Personally, with the intensive, I think it was a lot of classes. I didn't really expect that many. Intensive is also going to be more expensive because you're paying for more classes. It's going to be a higher tuition. Then there's also general course. I would say that was like the second most popular one. You're going to be in 26 lessons per week, so that's 10 less than the intensive, and it's going to be less money. Now, you may be in a class with an intensive student and a general course student, so don't worry if you have friends, like that can change. The classes that you're going to be paired up with is people in your level. So there was like 1A, 1B, C, and then like so forth. Most people there was a big amount of 1A, which is just basic Korean. Yeah, so you're going to stay in that group of people. Those are going to be mostly the time that you spend, or the people that you spend most time with. And then there's the basic course, which is 20 lessons per week. You have no spin classes. Most of my friends did general and intensive. Only downside of like having friends do different ones is that my friend Sophie, she would be like waiting outside of class, just waiting for us to finish for us to go all hang out together. So those are the difference between the courses and kind of what your day would look like. My days usually started at 8 o'clock, so I would leave around 7 o'clock to go bus all the way to Gangnam. It's also rush hour, so that's why I left so early. And then I would arrive at the campus and start my day off in the lounge with all my friends and then go to class. The classes, what they look like, they're all spoken in Korean. The teachers don't speak English very well. If they do, it's a little bit, or some are more advanced than others, but for the most part, they speak their entire lessons in Korean. It's going to be slow and they're going to be trying to help you. It's very fun and engaging for the most part. Sometimes it's a little boring, but for the most part, they have a good attitude. One thing I loved was the teachers. They just really seem to like what they're doing. So yeah, you'll be doing activities in your lesson books. They create lesson plans through like slideshows, but then you also have like, this is the book that I was given because this was the level I was at. It was 1A, so just basic Korean. And we would just kind of like be given activities to listen and kind of just like fill out info. So it was pretty fun. And again, everyone in the class is on a very similar level. So they're just there trying to like all work together. And then you would probably get like a 10-minute break between each class, which was nice. And then you get lunch. Most people just go to the convenience store downstairs. So that was always good. Or some people would leave to nearby places, like McDonald's is pretty close. So yeah, I went to Karosugil a couple of times to get some good food for lunch. I would also go to pizza places too as well. So those were my average day in classes. They would end around like maybe 3 o'clock, sooner or later some days. So your days never really look the same. And on Fridays, I would have the most classes. There's like a required lecture that a lot of people go to, which is a little bit longer. It's about like an hour. Yeah, you're still with your friends, so it's still like somewhat fun. But then my days were a little bit longer on Fridays, so keep this in mind. Everyone's schedule looks a little bit different. One problem that I had is that by the second week that I was there, they were getting 100 more students, so they actually had to buy another campus for us, which was in Karosugil, which is about like 15-minute walk. And it wasn't a fashion design building, so it wasn't a very renovated building, and it wasn't for EF. So my schedules looked pretty different then, which I didn't like, and a lot of students had problems with that. And so that kind of just brought problems because you can really see that EF was like a money-making machine, just trying to get as many students as they can. And so yeah, so we every single day then, we would be like in the Shinsa building and then sometimes in Karosugil, and we would be switching back and forth, which was frustrating. And our schedules would sometimes have like a really awkward gap. Like I would have an hour break, but it takes about an hour to get anywhere. Like back to my home, it takes about like 40 minutes or so, you know, with traffic and walking. So I wouldn't have time to come back. So you sometimes just have to stay in the lounge, and it's pretty boring, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't think they do that anymore, but during my time that I was there, everyone had to be like separated into 2 buildings, which is kind of frustrating, but that might not be the case for you. So now I'm going to answer the question, how much Korean do I know prior to going? I knew how to introduce myself. I knew my vocab was like here and there, but I would have a low amount of confidence when speaking. So that's where my Korean was at. I feel like a lot of people's is a very similar spot where they can pick up words, but when it's spoken too fast, you get nervous and, you know, you can read it and that's about it. How much Korean did I end up learning? I learned basic conjugation, but I think for the tuition amount, I didn't learn a ridiculous amount. I learned, like, again, conjugation of like, I am doing this, we went here. I learned numbers, and the difference between Sino and native Korean numbers and when to use those. So yeah, I mean, I learned a good amount, but I wouldn't say it was worth that tuition, especially since I was intensive. I was expecting a little bit more cramming knowledge, but it wasn't a great amount. A lot of my friends actually went in without knowing any of the Korean alphabet, so don't be like discouraged. And I also had a friend that spoke Korean very well, so she was in the higher class. So again, there are people with different levels, and you know, it is totally okay. You will learn, and they are there to help you. So don't worry, if you don't know the Korean alphabet, that is fine. I suggest that you do learn it prior to going because it can help you, but they will help you if not. One interesting fact too is that every Monday you'll be getting new students, so not everyone starts at the same time technically, but every Monday you get new students. So keep this in mind. You'll always be constantly meeting people and getting new people in the class. People will be leaving and graduating, and then you kind of just celebrate. One of the things I thought was super smart and like I highly suggest is people traveling with EF for 2 weeks, because that's the minimum, and then staying in Korea for 2 more weeks outside of EF. So they made like a lot of friends during their 2 weeks with EF in their class, and then afterwards got an Airbnb or hotel to stay in, and just stayed there and was like, hey, when are you done with class? And would hang out with their friends. This first saved a lot of money, so if you're more interested in just like being in South Korea, which I was, this is a very good option. If you're more interested in learning the language and like really there to study, then I suggest staying your entire time in the courses. It can just save you a lot of money, and your travel can look very different. So that's just a tip that I have, and you should most definitely consider as well. Moving on to EF activities. So what are EF activities like? There are many EF activities every single day, even during the weekends. EF activity they have usually is the EF barbecue. That is a very good option to meet a lot of new students, old students, and you pretty much just like take out a whole restaurant. It's crazy. And it's really good and a good opportunity to meet people. Free, but you still are required to pay for your food and your travel there to the restaurant. So keep that in mind. So another EF activity besides the Korean barbecue or restaurants would be like there was Kpop dance classes that you could take. So that was an EF activity. I remember that being $30. So you would sign up on the app being like, hey, I'm interested. You can pay there or in person. And yeah, you would just go all together there and be responsible for your subway pass and whatnot. Other EF activities for 18 plus was like the pub crawl, like I mentioned earlier. I also went to the Sinchon Water Gun Festival with EF, so that was an activity. So they really like, there's constantly things happening, so never feel like there isn't. Even on the first week, there was like a weekend trip to Busan for $200. That was to pay for the hotel up for the weekend, your bus fees, and some other activity fees. So that's something you can always consider and sign up for as well. Yeah, so that's what the EF activities are like. They're very fun. I suggest doing them. I didn't do too many just because I was more focused on being just with my friends and like doing activities with them without like supervision that I needed all the time. One question that I had was, do EF activities overlap with class? Yes, some of them do. Again, there are people that are going to be taking 20 classes versus 36. So, you know, you're going to have shorter days than others, and they will be doing activities. You can always skip your class. I skipped one lecture once to go attend an EF cafe, which I met native Koreans who studied abroad with EF, which was super cool. So you can most definitely do that. Just make sure that you tell your teachers where you're going. You will be marked absent. You know, that's an option or a thing that you're willing to do. You can always do that. But just keep in mind, like, there's like a K-pop dance class, right? But you can always do that on your free time and get a group of friends to do that. So if you want to stay in class, you can always do that. They don't overlap too much. And I would say those big name activities like going to Busan and, you know, the K-pop dance classes tended to be like during the late afternoon when there's no class. So they try to be mindful of that as well. How is the money like in EF activities? So you buy activity credits. Each credit is equivalent to each dollar. So I started off with I think like 30 credits or 20, which bought me a couple of activities, which was good. But then from then on, I just paid in cash when I was there. But I would make sure to sign up on the app because sometimes they can only bring a certain amount of students because Suryeon is the activity advisor, so she can't take care of like 50 kids. So she'll just take like 30. So make sure you sign up, but you can always talk to them if you didn't sign up and maybe try to make your way into the activity. In addition to the classes, there are materials provided to you. I showed you guys this book. So I came with this book, and so this is my workbook, and then I also came with a textbook. But then I was expected to bring my own like writing materials, which was pretty easy. I just finished high school then, so I just used my notebooks there. I also stopped at the cacao store and got a really cute notebook that I used, so you can always do that. And you're expected to just take notes and study. There's not much else that they expect from you to provide or bring. You don't need a big backpack or anything. I personally just had like a tote bag, which was my best friend. And you'll notice too, there's a lot of tote bags that are cheap, and a lot of Koreans tend to use those. So they're very helpful. That's what I kept everything in. And you get to keep these, so which is nice. You can still practice on them. One question I got as well is, how do you overcome nervousness and make friends? So on that first day, you have to keep in mind that everyone, like on that Monday, like everyone's new. Like you're not the only one. That is some people's first time leaving their country, traveling alone, going to South Korea. Some people went, that was like their 5th time in South Korea. Like there's so many different people, and you know, studying abroad is scary, but it's a time for you to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Also too, I most definitely am kind of like an introvert extrovert for sure, but I most definitely pushed myself. I was like, oh, what is your name? And you know, just try to sit next to people and talk to them. The simplest and easiest conversation starter while you're studying abroad is, hi, what's your name and what country are you from? That is an easy conversation starter, and promise you that it works like a charm. You can meet a lot of people this way, and that's honestly how I met some of my best friends that I still talk to this day. Some have visited me in my states, some and I are planning travel back to Korea, so you know, push yourself and you will make like lifelong friends there, I promise. It's good. So don't be nervous. Everyone's on the same boat. Push yourself, and you know, everything will be okay. So now I'm gonna answer this final question of, you know, what are my thoughts on EF Seoul and South Korea? My thoughts on EF Seoul, it was really good. I met amazing people. The staff there was wonderful. The building was nice, good location. Activities are fun. Most definitely had problems with, you know, kind of the whole situation of like moving to another campus, but you know, everyone was there, was nice and accommodating. I don't see myself going with EF again just because the tuition was so high and I didn't feel like I gained a lot from it. But honestly, I don't regret doing it. I met amazing people and had a great experience. So you most definitely should consider this. One thing that's really nice about EF is that they promote self-travel. You know, like I didn't have to do any of those activities, and I did anything I wanted. You know, I was in Hongdae when I wanted to be. I was in Myeongdong when I wanted to be. So you can really do what you like and self-travel, or if not, you can travel with a group of EF students. So it gives you a lot of freedom, and I really and highly suggest EF if you like that flexibility. They're also just very accommodating to people's situations and sexual orientations and gender identifications. Like EF is very understanding, so don't be afraid. There's people from all walks of life going, you know, so you're not the only one. You will be okay, and I really loved EF for that. It was amazing. So enough about the experience and all those fun questions. Now I will be moving on to the logistics, the important stuff that your family is probably going to want to know. I'll start off with, how do you sign up for EF? I briefly explained this on About EF video, but again, you just go on their website and order a brochure with no extra costs. They just send you information through email or in the mail, and at that point, when you provide your email or phone number, you'll be contacted by an advisor. Mine was personally Julie Lin. She's the one that kind of advertised EF and tried to get me to sign up, but also answered a lot of questions for me and helped me lose nervousness and be prepared for my study abroad journey. Once you sign up, you'll be constantly getting calls of them trying to get you to, you know, pay the money to go study abroad with them. But again, they're always answering questions for you. Once I was pretty sure that I wanted to go, I called up Julie Lin and was like, hey, I want to go. What can I do now? At that point then, I just got a verbal confirmation from my mom, kind of went through the process of getting my credit card information to take the first deposit. and I get put in the first deposit. It sounds scary to pay over the phone, but it's all legit stuff. I didn't get robbed. Once then, you kind of start figuring out a payment plan. And so once you sign up, you keep getting communication from Julie or your advisor of how to keep preparing and what to expect and things that you need to complete. You will also be provided your EF sign up, which is like My EF, which will give you a portal, which will give you what your class schedule could look like. It will give you a place to submit all your documents and download documents. And the different payment options that I was given was you can either pay completely in full right then and there, or you can break up your payment by how many months you have left. My tuition amount, which was around $3,000, by 3. So I paid about $1,000 a month towards my tuition and broke it up like that. It's important to start preparing early on because, you know, you could have 6 months to pay that off, so you'll have smaller amounts. Or if you sign up a month beforehand, you're probably going to have to pay in full. So keep that in mind, always prepare early and do your research. And you'll also be provided a document of you signing off electronically to submit to My EF, just verifying that you understand the payment options as well. So that is one document that you should be expecting to submit. Another document that I had to get and submit is my mom, because I was a minor, verifying that she knows I'm going to South Korea, that I'm not running away. So it was just her acknowledging everything and signing that. Not only did I have to sign those documents, but I also had to sign off on my shots. I traveled a lot to Brazil, which was very similar shots that I needed for Korea, so I was all good in my vaccinations. But keep this in mind that you may need to take vaccinations to be able to enter the country and stay for a certain amount of time. So you will need to sign off on that and provide proof of this. So these are documents that you needed as well. I didn't need a visa because I was only there for a month. You need a visa if you're staying over 90 days in South Korea, I'm pretty sure. But EF helps you apply for a visa because you're going to need an education visa. But those are going to be additional documents that I don't have a lot of knowledge on. But again, EF will help you. Just tell them that, hey, you know, I'm staying here for a couple of months. My friends, some of them stayed for around 10 months. So they had to apply for a visa, but EF helped them and they got everything okay. But if you're staying for less than 90 days, then you shouldn't need a visa. Another document that I had, because I was staying in a host family, I had to sign and complete like a host family questionnaire saying how involved do I want my host family to be in my life while I'm abroad. Do I like pets? Am I allergic to anything? What are my interests, religious beliefs? And they try to match you up with someone that's very similar or can provide a good, you know, experience to you. So those were all the documents that I needed and submitted. So hey guys, so I'm editing this Q&A for the future and I completely realized I didn't talk at all about your insurance. This is another very important document that you're actually going to need to study abroad so that if you get hurt and you need surgery or something happens, that your insurance will cover it. I had quartz insurance, so that was able to be covered in Korea. I just called them and was like, hey, can we get international coverage? They might just be like, yes, for a certain price, and then you pay that. Or you might be able to do it too through the flight ticket that you get. Sometimes they provide like external links for like temporary insurance. So keep that in mind, do your research. But this is also a very important thing that you need to prepare for prior to going to South Korea. Why is it going here? Okay, bye. Yeah, just there may be more, there may be less now, but just keep an eye out on that and constantly message your advisor. Mine was Julie, being like, hey, is there any more documents that I need or that I'm missing, or did you get everything all right? There's nothing wrong with extra and over communication. Now, moving on to another logistical thing, is there any extra costs or money? Yes, there are. So it's another day with me in the future. While editing, I realized that I didn't really explain very well this hidden fees or extra fees. I think the best way for me to do it is just literally inserting an image of my invoice. This is all the payment that is required by EF to study abroad. Any other payments that I had was in-country travel, like my T-Money card, my plane ticket there, and my personal spending money. But any other required payments, it is completely put on this invoice. If you're looking for a 4-week study abroad trip to Seoul, South Korea with EF, this is what I spent in my summer of 2019. You know, this price might change, but this is the most accurate information that I can give you guys with all the numbers laid down. So I hope you find this helpful. Take a screenshot, do what you need to be well informed. You will need to be expected to get a T-Money card, which is like your subway bus card, which you just reload with cash. Know that. That's why I stole from the subway. Terrible. You need to pay with cash, so make sure you start off with a couple of won. So now I'm going to get super personal with money. So I mentioned my tuition, so I was there for a month and I personally brought $1,200. That is how much money I saved, and that was like all of it. So I spent a lot of money. I did, go a little crazy, but it is expected, but that was me being in a month, doing whatever I wanted. While I was in South Korea, I got 2 tattoos. They were $200, so that was $400 just on tattoos. You most definitely don't need to do that. So, keep that in mind, that there are other ways to spend your money. The money that I used as well, too, allowed me to eat out every single day for lunch and dinner. I ate maybe dinner once or twice at my host family, and then dinner a couple of times at friends' houses, like my native Korean friends' houses. But other than that, I was just eating out dessert, dinner, lunch, like snacks all the time. So, people are always like, oh, Korea is expensive. Yes, Korea is expensive in comparison to other Asian countries. Much cheaper. The food there might be like $4, and in Korea it's like $7. So that's why they're like, it's so expensive. And I'm like, it's really not. If you're from the US or other like countries, similar to the US, you're looking at like a $12 meal. And in Korea, a $12 meal would be like an all-you-can-eat buffet that can feed like 7 people. So keep this in mind. Things there are pretty cheap. Along with my money, it also went towards clubbing. It went towards in-country travel. So I spent $20 a week on reloading my T-Money card. $20 is a good amount because that allowed me to go to school, back home, to friends' houses. $20 a week allowed a lot of travel, so that's a good amount to reload on your card every week, or to expect. I used cabs as well sometimes, which is, I would say, a lot more expensive. You can maybe spend around $30 on a cab trip, which is expensive, but that's not the most common use of your money, so try not to do that. But $1,200 was like a really good amount. I went crazy with it, guys. You might spend more, you might spend less, depending how long you stay there. But for a month, to do all those things that I did, I spent $1,200. I'm still recovering. I really hope this Q&A was helpful for you guys. If you have any more questions or I didn't answer something fully, leave them in the comments. I will answer your questions, I promise. Other than that, stay tuned. I'm, kind of stuck in Corona mind block, but I will try to create content for you guys. But yeah, till next time, go leave a like and a comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.